2011, I was introduced to the improvement kata. At first, I remember thinking that it was kind of a joke, to be honest. but it was pretty quick that I really took to it as well, and thought that there is no better way to solve a problem than scientific thinking this way. So, my family is a blended family. My wife has 2 kids, Haley and Aiden, and I myself have 2 kids, Delia and Bradley. So my wife and I were both working full time. My wife is a nurse, so she works extremely long hours. And this kind of made managing the kids in the evenings after school a little bit difficult. We were sending them to childcare, and to save some money on childcare, we decided let's start having Delia, the 14-year-old, watch the little ones for that short amount of time from when they get off school to when I get home from work. This was only about an hour time, but the kids were definitely they are rambunctious. They like to have fun. The boys are constantly wrestling everywhere, all over the house. My daughter's always trying to get into it, my stepdaughter, and always ends up crying and getting hurt. These guys will full punch each other with fists and nothing ever happens from it. I don't know. They're crazy. Typical teenager in the background there. Babysitting. Even though this was only for an hour's time in the day, the house could be perfectly clean before everybody left the house. And in that hour's time, the house was in a complete disarray. So my wife hated coming home to a dirty house after 14-hour long days, and so we would try to get the house all cleaned up before she got there. But it was I couldn't quite figure out how they could destroy the house so quickly in such a short amount of time. I tried to create some structure, so I created chore lists for them. So, hey, these things have to be done when you first get home from school. It worked for a little bit, and then it kind of died off, and then we'd add, well, okay, here's some money incentives, so you can get paid allowance too, and we'd do that for a little bit, and it worked, and then it died off, and they got tablets, and the tablets were the coolest thing, and they wanted to play on their tablets all the time. So we put the chore list into the tablets, saying you have to finish your chores on the tablet before you can play with the tablet. So thinking, oh, this is good. This is a great idea. They're going to for sure do the chores every time now. Well, then it became more like, well, I'm not that interested in playing with my tablet today, so I don't have to worry about doing those chores. A little further along, summer came, and my daughter wanted to make some money, and we wanted to save some money on childcare. So she had been doing a pretty good job at the short times of babysitting. So let's go ahead and see if this will work, if we can get her to babysit during the summer to save us some money. The thought process was, hey, Delia, we're going to pay you. Keep the house in better shape while we're gone. I mean, you're getting paid not just to watch the kids, but to take care of the house too. It was a week in, and I decided this isn't working, and we have to do something different. This is what I came home to on a Thursday evening, and I remember pulling my daughter in there and going, what the heck? I thought we had an agreement, and this is only a week in. The kitchen is a disaster. And this isn't just the only room that was this way, but this was what I have to come home and make dinner. And that's what I come home to. So, what I recognize is that we need to do something different. And I'd been doing this great thing called improvement kata at work, and how can I apply this to my family? So I did say, we came together as a family, we had a meeting, and my wife and the boys had no interest in doing this. They did not think this was a good idea at all. luckily, the two girls were kind of interested. So I took that as my, all right, this is where we're going to experiment. So I did start coaching my 14-year-old daughter at the time. And the thought was that since she's watching the kids during the day, that if I'm coaching her, that they could do experiments together as their home. And so that's what we kind of did. My wife she's not very happy about this. What I was trying to do was create a sense of ownership in an area that they would not normally own. This is something that I'd seen happen in a lot of areas in manufacturing. You know, people get this introduced and they start making all these improvements, and then they start really feeling a sense of pride of, this is my area, and they take better care of it. So I was really, it probably wasn't the right goal to have, but it was the goal that I was going for. Can I give my kids ownership in an area that they would not normally own? And what happened was so much more. I mean, it affected our family in far more ways than I could have expected. And this video here is going to hopefully work, and they'll talk about that. We started practicing Kata. We've been doing it for a while now, and this video is kind of how it's affected our lives. Not just the children, but everybody as a family. This is pretty powerful stuff. It means a lot to me.
We started Kata-ing our kitchen. I believe the goal was to be able to clean the kitchen in, I think it was 7 minutes or less.
When Kata was first introduced into our family, I was less than pleased.
When I first started Kata, I did not like it. It was kind of too much work for me. So when I first started doing Kata a few summers ago, either that or last summer, I hated it. I would have rather played. Our
youngest son is ADHD. Kata has really given him some serious focus. He enjoys doing it. He enjoys seeing the outcome. His anger outbursts are going down. His focus in school is getting better. His focus with his homework is getting better. He is problem solving, in his words, in his head. Something amazing happened a couple of weeks ago. I watched him get up from the dining room table, walk out to the patio and sit on the patio table, didn't say a word to anybody, just got up, walked out there and sat down and continued his homework. And I asked him later what he did, and he said, I could tell that I was getting upset, so I found a solution to that problem, and I took myself out of the room. You know, as a combined family, it's tricky finding ways to bond with your stepchildren. I quickly and easily bonded with my stepdaughter. My stepson was trickier, and same went with my daughter and my husband. So they bonded over Kata. My daughter is very type A, very organizational, very much into that sort of thing, and this gave them a commonality that they were able to do together.
To overcome the obstacle of not knowing where things went, we labeled things, and we took foam and cut out shapes in it to make it look like the outline or shadow of some of our tools we use in the kitchen. And so that way we could just look at the foam and see what things would go there by its shape.
Some things did end up in a place that required less twisting or moving around the kitchen.
We were all just a family working together and having fun, but at the same time making our home a better place. On Kata right now, we've done a lot of things with Kata. We've done the kitchen, we've done our bookshelf, and right now we're putting our clothes away.
Last November, I was injured at work. I hurt my back, and the doctor put me on a really strict lifting restriction. I wasn't allowed to lift more than 10 pounds. Jeremiah took it upon himself to start having the smaller children do their own laundry. I was really skeptical about that as well because they're barely 7 and 6 at the time.
With Kata, when I first started coaching, I realized I didn't know as much as I thought I did, and I could learn a lot more.
When we started in my bedroom, I was really into it. The overall goal was to clean the bedroom in 5 minutes or less. From the dressers, since when we were putting our clothes away, it took way too long. So we changed it to shelves and it got just totally way easier.
I think that Kata has changed me a lot because it's helped put me in the direction of being able to be better in school and a career base. And
so our oldest is sophomore in high school. When all through junior high, she struggled. Her grades struggled. She didn't turn in homework. If she did it, she didn't even turn it in. She didn't know when due dates were. She didn't really know what the entire project was. It was extremely frustrating for us, and she had an overall complete apathy for school altogether. She just didn't care. In the process of doing Kata throughout the summer, I noticed a change in her study habits in school. She started her freshman year, and she started it with a purpose and organization, and everything is in its place, and she knows her due dates, and I never have to remind her. It's now sophomore year, and she's never gotten anything below a B all throughout high school. So from a failing student to an AB average is seriously impressive.
So you can see how it's affected us, and how I'm proud of what we've accomplished. The last thing my wife talked about was my daughter, and as a parent, I felt like a failure. Because we tried a lot of stuff. We were working very hard at trying to get her to be better in school. We talked about sending her away for the summers to these camps, and we really did not know what to do. Doing Kata at home, somehow it just changed the way she started thinking about everything. It completely changed her. Her personality changed. Her reaching the point where she actually decided this is what I want to do with my life was big for her, because it was that goal that she set, that farther out there goal. Now this is what I'm trying to do. So now she's like, what classes can I take to help me get to that path or stay on that path? So that's a big deal. So when they did start in the kitchen, the goal was the kitchen will be cleaned in 7 minutes or less. Their current condition was that it took one person 1 hour and 20 minutes to clean the kitchen. They learned how to use spaghetti diagrams. They learned how to break up the process and time the steps in the process. The target condition was that it was going to take 2 people 30 minutes to clean the kitchen. And so they worked through that and kept creating more target conditions afterwards. One of the first projects that they did, they felt that a big waste of time for them was checking to see if those dishes are done. Keep in mind, the dishes aren't being done every day. They kind of piled up. We had joint families. All the dishes joined also. So we had an abundance of dishes. So we could get away with letting them pile up and then do the dishes. So it was difficult for them to know when the dishes were clean or dirty. Haley, the 7-year-old at the time, she thought of this great idea. And the first one she did was a piece of paper with tape on it that she just wrote on and then flipped it up and down. This was huge for her. She thought it was the coolest thing ever. And it's so simple. It's so simple that I didn't even think of it. It was something that they were working through, and then this just came of it. Well, what it did was catapulted her into this. She was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of neat. But then after this one little project, I'm all aboard and I'm ready to go. So then it went into the shadow boarding of things. How do the boys figure out where things go? We can keep practicing and do this, but can we get the boys in here occasionally and helping us? And if we do, how do they figure out where tools go? So they did a lot of 5S'ing, getting rid of a lot of my wife's stuff. Another thing she wasn't happy about. But why do we need 15 spatulas in the kitchen? I don't know. So down to 3. But what they did was just made it very simple and easy, quicker to clean, quicker to put things away, and the pride that they got from it was what I was really hoping they would get. They did some other labeling stuff in other areas for bigger stuff. What I'm going to show now is just a video of the boys doing kata coaching.
What is your target condition? All of our clothes are in one spot. It takes us 45 minutes or less to put clothes away. What is your current condition? We are putting away our own clean clothes, shirts hung in closets, dressers are across the room. It takes 52 minutes to put clothes away.
What was your last step?
Get shelves for clothes.
What did you expect?
They cost $10.
What actually happened?
They cost $30 each.
What did you learn?
They costed more.
What obstacles are preventing you from your target condition?
Drawers make it slow.
What's your next step?
Test the new shelves.
What do you expect?
It will take 30 minutes.
When can I see what you learned from taking this step?
10:15.
So just a little more information on that. Before that, they did experiment on the idea that a shelf is better than the drawers. They actually got some cardboard boxes and laid them out, open-faced, and then they did a time study of putting their clothes away with the cardboard boxes, pretending that they were the shelves. So the experimenting that they did ahead of this one here was towards, are shelves the right choice? And yes, the shelves are the right choice. Okay, now let's see how much these things are going to cost. So that's where that PDCA came in play. So to close the whole thing up, Mike, in the beginning, you talked about young people think about lean differently. The new generations are going to think about lean different than the last generation. What I find with working with kids is that they really do think differently. They don't know a lot of the tools yet. They hear me talk about it and they understand some things, and I've taught some things along the way. But another thing that Mike mentioned was that the behavior that we practice creates habits. And you had mentioned something about pre-puberty, how it's easier to create these new habits or learn new things. What I'd like to say, and what I notice, is that as adults, we tend to do exactly what he showed earlier, jump to a conclusion. We already know what we're going to work on. It's very difficult for us to think, okay, I'm going to pretend I don't know my next place that I want to be, and I'm going to evaluate what's happening right now. It's difficult. We have a hard time turning that off. We are always thinking ahead. So what I notice about kids is that they don't do that. They have no problem saying, I don't know. It is very easy to coach them because their knowledge threshold is very apparent and they don't mind you knowing it. I don't know. Good. Now let's work on that. Adults, they will, spit off, well, we could do this and this is what we're going to do. And sometimes what can hurt us more is that we know the current or the target condition, so we were working our current condition to reflect that target condition. Not a problem with kids. So, scientific thinking, it is for all ages, and kids take it way easier than adults take it. That's where I'm going to leave you.